Having done the maths this morning, find out that I've been working as a construction lawyer for 28 years, which is a bit depressing. It all started back in 1985 in the UK, and I worked in the UK industry for 12 years before I came back here. And it was during a time when the UK construction industry was notoriously adversarial. And I spent those 12 years pretty much in arbitration, without much of a break. What really struck me when I came back to Ireland was the manner in which the stark contrast rather between the culture of the UK construction industry, which was so highly adversarial, and the culture of the Irish industry, which I found to be hugely cooperative or collaborative. And I learned my lesson early on when I was working for a contractor, and an issue had arisen, and he asked me to draft a letter to go to the architect, and I drafted it in my UK style. And he recoiled with horror when he saw it, and he said, "What are you talking about? We can't send this to the architect. He'd be highly insulted. You're blaming him for the delay." I said, "Well, but it's his fault, isn't it?" He goes, "Yeah, of course it's his fault, but we can't blame him." And I said, "Well, what do we do? Because, if we take the blame ourselves, you're not going to get paid." He said, "I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll send it to him in draft. He'll get the message. It'll get sorted out." And that's the way I found things worked for the most part during the period that followed from 1997 onwards. Indeed, that particular contractor had originally employed me with the memorable words, "Look, I don't want you to get me out of this shit. I want you to stop me getting into it in the first place." That was the mandate that I got from that contractor, and for 15 years I acted for them. And never once, we spent one day in court over an injunction and not one day in arbitration. Were they a bad client? Not at all. We interacted with them on a daily basis. But they got us involved early, and we were able to help them to avoid problems. And that's what they wanted to do. They didn't want to go to court. They didn't want to go to arbitration. They wanted to get projects finished. They wanted to get out. They wanted to start again. And that's the way things were. And that, to my mind, worked. 1997 to 2007, I think if you look back on it, for the Irish construction industry, it was a period mostly marked by achievement. Huge number of projects delivered successfully, usually under serious time pressure, and rarely with significant issues arising in relation to defects. And it was a very high performance period. And I don't believe that the contracting system was broken at that stage. But notwithstanding that, in 2007, somebody decided to fix it. And along came the public works contract. And I think one of the things that I don't like about the public works contract and never have is the impact that it seems to have set out to have on the culture of the industry. It's almost as if somebody decided that they would take the former collaborative process, throw it in the bin and replace it with an adversarial one. And to what end? And some of the examples that I've set out there, and there are only some examples, a provision that says if a contractor complies with an oral instruction from the employer's representative, he's in breach of contract, he can't get paid. So if you have a contractor who's trying to build a relationship with an employer's representative on day 1 or day 2 or day 3 of a contract, and he's given a simple instruction, and he goes back to his office and writes to the architect and said, "You give me this instruction, but it needs to be in writing." It's a very bad start to the relationship, in my view. Notices, we could talk all day about notices. Interestingly, I was very interested in Bernard's description of his point about notices because it sounds eerily familiar to me, and I suspect he might be surprised who's on the other side of that dispute. But the argument is actually a lot better than it was characterised, I have to say. But is it really in the interests of the industry to say to the contractor at the start of the job, whatever happens, if anything happens, which could even conceivably give rise to a claim, fire in a notice, and then 20 days later try to provide some details of it? Is that really what we want? Is that the way that we want the industry to go? That's the way the authors of the contract have delivered it or projected it. The 10-day period for instructions. Something happens on site, a contractor needs an instruction immediately, it's urgent. The employer's representative is told, you can wait 10 working days before you give them that instruction. Why? Whose interest is that serving? It doesn't seem to be encouraging people to be collaborative. Similarly, zero delay costs. And we all know that the contract is designed to force contractors to tender on the basis of zero delay costs. And what does that create? A situation where there's no incentive, really, to employers' representatives to move quickly to overcome delays that they may have caused. All of this seems to be an attack on the culture that previously worked so well, in my view. This is not irreversible. Hopefully there is going to be a review. Hopefully these things will be taken into account. Hopefully we're about to turn the corner economically and that there will be construction projects in the future, and hopefully they'll be done under a form of contract which encourages the Irish construction industry back to its collaborative days. Thank you very much.